Live from New Delhi, you're watching the India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Austrian artists welcome Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Vienna with rendition of Vande Mataram. PM Modi's first Indian PM to visit Austria in almost 40 years will hold delegation-level talks with Chancellor Karl Nehammer. US President Joe Biden promises air defense system for Ukraine as he opens NATO summit in Washington. NATO chief Stoltenberg says outcome of Ukraine conflict will shape global security for decades to come.
But make no mistake, Ukraine can and will stop Putin.
Texas faces double whammy as heat wave adds to the woes after tropical storm Beryl forced power outages. President Joe Biden issues federal emergency disaster declaration. 7 people killed in the storm so far. And Board of Control for Cricket in India appoints Gautam Gambhir as the new head coach. Gambhir to take over from Sri Lanka tour. And Wonder Kid Yamal scripts history as Spain edge France 2-1 to reach Euro 2024 final. Well, on to the details now. After concluding a fruitful visit to Russia, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Austria's capital in Vienna. This is the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister in over 40 years. A look now at Prime Minister's itinerary in Vienna. DD India's Gautam Roy reports for more.
Minister landing on Austrian soil after over 40 years, when the two nations are also marking 75 years of their friendship.
The visit is going to give great dynamism to this partnership. It's going to give the high-level political visibility that this relationship requires. And it's a relationship that has been performing reasonably well. And with this visit, we expect it to gain dynamism and content.
The substantial part of Prime Minister Modi's Austria visit will be unfolding on Wednesday, where he'll not only call on Austria's President Alexander Van der Bellen at the Hofburg Palace, but also hold delegation-level talks with his Austrian counterpart, Federal Chancellor Karl Nehammer, at the Federal Chancellery after receiving a ceremonial reception. The day will also see the Prime Minister meeting key Austrian influencers. But another highlight for Wednesday will be the maiden Austria-India CEOs meeting, where an effort will be made to give further impetus to the business ties between the two nations, including their respective startup ecosystems.
Indian companies that are operating in Austria, and there are several Austrian companies operating in India. And as part of the program, there will be an interaction with Indian and Austrian CEOs to try and see how we can move this partnership forward, especially in niche technologies, clean technologies, and also in terms of bringing some of our startups together. There is a good groundwork has already been laid, and what we need is a quantum leap in this partnership, and this is what I think this visit will succeed in doing.
Vienna is also the city of Western classical music, which was the home to great composers such as Mozart and Beethoven, among others. And he also got a melodic reception from Vienna University Philharmonic, whose director is also an Indian diaspora member. Clearly, there are multiple elements to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Austria visit, which have the potential of taking its ties with India to greater heights in several aspects of the relationship.
In just the last few months, India and Austria have added new elements to their already extensive relations, such as a comprehensive migration and mobility agreement, as well as an India-Austria startup bridge. But there are many more areas that are still left to be fully explored, be it semiconductors or AI, advanced telecommunications, aerospace, and much progress can be expected to be made in this historic Austria visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. With camera person Rakesh Singh, Gautam Roy, Vienna, Austria, DD India.
And DD India's correspondent Gautam Roy joins us for more from Vienna. Well, good morning, Gautam. The PM had a grand reception last night on his arrival in Austria. And today he will also hold restricted delegation-level talks, and a high-level business meeting is the highlight in Austria. What all can be expected?
Well, good morning to you as well, Lipakshi. The day is quite packed as far as Prime Minister Narendra Modi is concerned, because it begins fairly early, just after 10 a.m. here, Vienna time, which is 3.5 hours behind the Indian Standard Time. And from there on, like I had mentioned in that report as well, he'll be headed to the Federal Chancellery, where first of all he'll get a ceremonial reception. Then, of course, there are those meetings with the Federal Chancellor Karl Nehammer. There are restricted level talks, delegation level talks, there are the press statements, where we'll all find out what this visit substantially has been about. We do not know what sort of agreements may have been in the pipeline, but I'm sure since Prime Minister Modi and Indian Prime Minister is coming to Austria, to Vienna, after a gap of over 40 years, there would be some big ticket announcements, because this is also the 75th year of India-Austria relations. So that is definitely a possibility. I had also mentioned the India-Austria CEOs meeting, where there is a relatively smaller Indian contingent, of which 5 are startups, 2 in the aerospace domain. And there will be representatives, CEOs and other top leaders, representatives of 28 Austrian companies, and these cover a very wide range. Like the ambassador also mentioned, they range from semiconductors and AI to metallurgy, to advanced telecommunications, to biofuels, and even recycling of plastic. So all those technologies that Austria has made quite a lot of progress in, India is also making quite a lot of advancements in. There can be synergies on those fronts. The trade between India and Austria right now is $3 billion per annum, around that figure. Investments also reaching, if you talk about mutual investments from one country to the other, about $2 billion. And there's a lot of scope. Austria, of course, is part of the European Union as well. And India and European Union have been working on a comprehensive trade deal as well, in which Austria perhaps could also move things along if that is something that could be brought up on the agenda as well, apart from the leaders talking about various regional and global geopolitical issues, where each of them have their own strong views.
All right. Also, PM said India-Australia will continue to work together to further the global good. How do you see that?
Yes, we've seen how India has been very forthright as far as the global challenges that are present for everyone around the world, be it the wars that have been unfolding, the conflicts that have been taking place all over the world, bringing up their own challenges. We still mention COVID and the challenges that stem from that, which still have a bit of an overhang. There is, of course, the crisis of cost as well, because a lot of people are still, even countries in Europe, have that particular crisis right now. Inflation is still a challenge, and a lot of these countries need to work together to address them, and which is why we see a lot of them coming together and discussing and trying to come to some sort of a concerted effort in one direction to address these issues. Not everything can be fixed in one go, so a comprehensive and constant effort has to be made, where bilaterally too countries like India and Austria can work out things to basically improve things amongst themselves, and that would be part of the efforts here. Another aspect, of course, is the Indian diaspora here. The headline event of the Prime Minister interacting with the Indian diaspora will be taking place today as well at Sofia and Saleh. Austria has a 31,000 strong Indian diaspora. Some of them, about 150 odd of them, met the Prime Minister even yesterday, last night, when Prime Minister Modi arrived in Vienna. But today will be the grand event where they will get to hear extensively from Prime Minister Modi about what he feels, what the Indian diaspora in Austria could be doing, has been doing. He will, of course, have words of praise for them, but he will lay out what they can do further for both India and Austria as well, I'm sure.
All right, a lot of optimism there between the two countries. Thank you so much, Gautam, for joining us and giving us all that information. And earlier, Gautam interacted with a girl kid who came to welcome PM Modi. The Prime Minister asked her name, got it noted down and said he will write to her. Let's listen in.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just met a small contingent of the Indian diaspora when he arrived, a good mix of young and old and women and men. And these children also got to speak to him. You presented something to Prime Minister Modi today. What's your name, Rita? Vinci, what did you give to the PM?
A poster.
And what did it say?
Prime Minister won 3 times a prize.
Prime Minister was so courteous. So he saw the poster, he saw the painting, appreciated it, and then he turned it around and he asked, where's the name of the child? And then he said, please give me the name of the child, and I want to write a letter to the child appreciating the efforts that she put in to make this painting. So it was really very, very, very humbling, and we really liked the Prime Minister's gesture.
Okay, wonderful. So that's what this visit would now mean to a future generation of the Indian diaspora here in Austria as well. That's the kind of imprint that perhaps this visit will leave here for all the Austrian people as well. This is Gautam Roy in Vienna, Austria for DD India.
All right, in an important milestone in India-Austria partnership, the Indian Prime Minister was hosted by Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer for a private engagement on Tuesday. This was the first meeting between the two leaders. The Austrian Chancellor posted a photo of him and PM Modi on the social media platform X and wrote, "It's an honor to welcome PM Modi to Austria. Austria and India are friends and partners." Nehammer further wrote he looks forward to the political and economic discussions between the two nations during PM Modi's visit. Prime Minister Modi thanked the Austrian Chancellor for the warm welcome and said he looks forward to the discussions as well. PM Modi said, "Our nations will continue working together to further global good." And during Prime Minister Modi's Austria's visit, the two nations are also looking to deepen their cooperation in tech and startup sectors. DD India's Gautam Roy has spoken with those involved in this effort, and both the sides of which they recently put into action. India-Austria Startup Bridge is a major initiative. Listen in.
Technology is an area where India and Austria can really take their cooperation really far, and the India-Austria Startup Bridge is one new initiative that has taken place. We're trying to find out more about it. We have with us Kambis Kohonsa Vayaga with us. He's the representative as far as startups is concerned for the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber. Thank you for speaking to DD India. Kambis, what can you tell us about this initiative, and to what extent are there plans to take it forward as well, because right now it's in a very nascent stage?
Yeah, great to be here. The initiative has different aspects to it. So several months ago, we had our biggest tech festival here in Austria, the Vienna Up, and we had a huge Indian delegation, the biggest of all the international countries. And the goal was to bring Indian startups to Austria, but also vice versa, bring Austrian startups to India. Apart from that, we have a strong focus on universities. So we want to share research and development, focus on spin-offs in Austria and India as well. And then again, having this matchmaking between market access, know-how, talent and capital.
Wonderful. We have Shankar as well with us. Shankar Reddy is a founding member of Indian Professional Network Association in Vienna in Austria. Shankar, what can you tell us about the scope of the kind of collaboration that India and Austria can have in the field of technology and, of course, the startup ecosystems?
India and Austria are growing more and more in terms of diversification. And very recent times, we have seen the mobility agreement signed between India and Austria, wherein which Austria is purely looking and focusing for the highly skilled employees to be placed in Austrian startups and Austrian companies, wherein which Austrian authorities and Austria as a whole is also looking for the Indian skill and Indian, talent to flourish this market.
So it seems to be all about opening up new avenues for collaboration to ensure that not only the fact that there is market access which is being sought in a cross manner, but also there are openings and there are future prospects for professionals as well in both the countries. With camera person Rakesh Kumar, Gautam Roy in Vienna, Austria, DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Fresh encounter underway in Doordarshan district of J&K. NIA special forces roped in for search operation. People in Assam finally heave a sigh of relief as the flood situation improves in the state with a decline in the rainfall. Bollywood blockbusters enthrall cine lovers in Germany at the Indo-German Film Week.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, a fresh encounter broke out between security forces and terrorists in the higher reaches of Doordarshan district of Jammu and Kashmir on Tuesday. Authorities have roped in the National Investigation Agency, deployed special forces and widened their search to cover vast areas in Udhampur and Kathua districts. The forces are searching for the perpetrators of the deadly attack on an army patrol in Kathua district in which 5 soldiers were martyred. And DD India correspondent Shabir Dar joins us for more from Srinagar. Well, Shabir, after the fresh encounter with security forces, National Investigation Agency has been roped in for further investigation. Can you give us an update? Has there been any headway?
Yeah, in last evening, the encounter started between terrorists and security forces in the upper forest area of Doordarshan district. Like, these are the people actually who are believed to have carried the attack on army convoy in Kathua, where five terrorists, 5 army soldiers were martyred. So the cordon has been tightened to ensure that no terrorists plays the area. We are believed to know that in the initial exchange of fire yesterday between the terrorists and security forces, 2 terrorists were hit, and it is yet to be confirmed by the authorities whether they are dead or injured. But obviously they are hiding in deep in the forest where the massive search and cordon operation is going on to ensure that the terrorists hiding there are brought to the justice at the earliest. We know that this government is taking severe measures to ensure that no such incidents happen in this area, because we already know that 5 terrorists have come to the Kathua and attacked this army convoy in which 5 of our brave soldiers were martyred. And now the NIA is being roped in. The elite commandos of the army and J&K police are in action. They are ensuring that the topographical advantage to the terrorists is minimized, because a lot of troops are being pressed in. The footprint of the army and forces is being increased in the area, because it is a heavy forest area and the topography is such there are ridges, because terrorists find easy way to go back after hitting the army convoys. And that is the challenge before the security agencies right now. That is why these high-level meetings are happening in Kashmir, in Jammu and Kashmir and in Delhi, where the defense minister has categorically said that the martyrdom of 5 soldiers will be avenged at the earliest. So on ground, troops are high alert. They are ensuring that no stone is left unturned to see that terrorists who carried these nefarious attacks are brought to justice.
All right, Shabir, thank you so much for all that update from there. And the flood situation in India's northeastern state of Assam has improved as intensity of rains decreased in the past few days. 7 persons lost their lives on Tuesday, taking the death toll up to 79 this year. Brahmaputra in some major areas and 5 other rivers are flowing above the danger mark. Over 2,700 villages under 90 revenue circles in 26 districts are still reeling under flood waters, affecting over 17.17 lakh people. And India correspondent Subina Roy joins us for more from Dibrugarh in Assam. Subina, what is the current situation like right now? The waters have receded. Has the situation improved?
Yes, Lepakshi, the situation here in Assam had improved as the weather conditions had improved and the intensity of rain had decreased. However, it has started again raining since yesterday, and since today morning it has been raining, and the IMD has issued red alert for Arunachal Pradesh for today and orange alert for Assam and Meghalaya for tomorrow, and for other northeastern states, IMD has issued yellow alert. So it seems it is going to rain again. As per the latest flood bulletin report, the rivers which are flowing above danger level are Brahmaputra at Niyamati Ghat, Tejpur, Dhubri, Guwahati, and then its tributaries like Buridihi, Subansiri, Kopili, Bara, Kushiari. These are the rivers which are flowing above danger level, Lepakshi. Due to the decreased rainfall, the population affected has also decreased to 17.7 lakh. The highest affected district here remains, Lepakshi, here is Kachar in Nagaon.
Right.
So which means that the lower Assam is largely affected this time by the floods. So, and when it comes to the rescue operations, Lepakshi, yesterday around 507 relief camps were set up, where just figuring for relief camps, more than 200 relief camps were set up, and relief distribution centers were over 260 relief distribution centers. So, and here over 48,000 people are residing in this relief camps, Lepakshi.
All right. Also, in spite of the relief camps, what are the difficulties being faced by the people there?
Lepakshi, there are lots of difficulties which people fall when flood affects your house. The house is inundated, and then we have electrical issues like electricity goes out, then communication gets disrupted. So people face large difficulties in commuting to the roads because the roads are all inundated by waters, and then when it is knee-deep waters, then people have to just go through boats. So that's how the difficulty is, and then these people have to taken out to safer places like relief camps and relief distribution centers, and also food is also not available when there is flood, Lepakshi.
All right, Subina, thank you so much for all that update from Assam. And moving on, at least 18 people were killed and 19 others injured after the bus they were traveling in collided with a milk container in North Indian city of Unnao early on Wednesday morning. The double-decker bus was traveling from Bihar's Sitamarhi to Delhi when it rammed the milk container from the back on the Lucknow-Agra Expressway. A probe has been launched into the matter. President of India, Draupadi Murmu, has condoled the loss of lives in the Unnao bus accident and wished speedy recovery to those injured. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also announced an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees from PM-NRF for the next of kin of each deceased in the mishap in Unnao. The injured would be given 50,000 rupees. Well, moving on, Nikola Tesla was undoubtedly one of the most prolific inventors of his time, a mastermind inventor who shaped some groundbreaking inventions. He was credited with close to 300 patents for his innovations in history. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya reports for more. Take a look.
Nikola Tesla was born on 10th of July, 1856 in Croatia, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. His father was a priest in the Serbian Orthodox Church and his mother managed the family's farm. In 1863, a tragic accident claimed the life of Tesla's brother Daniel. The shock of this loss deeply affected the 7-year-old Nikola. Tesla's journey was filled with challenges. After an unsuccessful attempt to start his own Tesla electric light company, he found backers to support his groundbreaking research into alternating current, or AC. In 1887 and 1888, Tesla was granted over 30 patents for his inventions. His work caught the eye of George Westinghouse, a key figure in the battle of the currents against Thomas Edison. Westinghouse hired Tesla, licensed his AC motor patents, and provided him with a lab. Tesla continued to innovate in 1890s, creating electric oscillators, meters, improved lights, and high-voltage transformer known as Tesla coil. He experimented with X-rays, demonstrated radio communication before Marconi, and piloted a radio-controlled boat at the Madison Square Garden. Together with Westinghouse, Tesla illuminated the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago and helped install AC generators at the Niagara Falls, establishing the first modern power station. Perhaps the most well-known symbol of Tesla's work is the Tesla coil. It is a transformer that produces high voltage, low current, high frequency alternating current electricity. In 1895, a fire destroyed Tesla's New York lab, erasing years of work. On this day, we honor Nikola Tesla, a visionary whose innovations continue to power the world. Tapash Bhattacharya's report, TD India.
Well, hundreds of moviegoers have been packing theatres in Germany to enjoy a little taste of India. The annual Indo-German Film Week showcasing the best of Bollywood on the silver screen, with many in the Indian diaspora taking along German friends to introduce them to the magic of Indian cinema. From Berlin, Trent Murray has the story.
In the Babylon Cinema Berlin, a big burst of Bollywood. This is the annual Indo-German Film Week, a celebration of Indian cinema and culture. For Indians living in Germany, the festival gives a chance to showcase what makes Bollywood special to their European friends.
It's more about the storytelling, it's more about the happiness and, the unity in culture. Like, we are, different part of India has so much in the cultural difference, but still, it's still very unique, and how we all are connected despite of different languages, and we have different folk style. So they come to know that it's not just the sari, which is a dressing style, or not just, the Punjabi dance, but there are so many forms of dances.
It's about their music, it's about their songs, it's about their costume. It's about their emotions, because India is a sentimental country. It's a little emotional, and their emotions are all about love, care, affection. So that's my kind of vision, my kind of perspective for it. So yeah, that's what I tell them. It's a mixture of life.
Well, India has well and truly established itself as one of the powerhouses of global cinema, producing well over 1,500 feature films every year. Increasingly, Bollywood's success on the silver screen is coming from a surging interest amongst international audiences.
This is now the 12th year in a row the Film Week has been held. Festival organiser Stephen Ottenbruch says looking beyond the big-name titles is what keeps crowds coming back.
We now try to concentrate on alternative films, like premieres, which are from artists and regional films, from Marathi cinema, from Gujarati cinema, from Malayalam cinema. And that's how we always create the mix for the festival.
Over 10 days, crowds across the capital can immerse themselves in the magic of India, with more than 30 films being shown on the big screen. Enjoying the sights and sounds of the subcontinent, right here in the heart of Germany's biggest city. Trent Murray for DD India, Berlin.
Many thanks to Pooja. Still to come in DD India News Now. Amid chaos over Biden's presidential bid, Trump expected to unite the party at the Republican National Convention next week. Heat stroke-related medical cases jumped fourfold as temperatures in Japan soared to 40 degrees centigrade. Visitors can now have a brief taste of royalty as visitors to Buckingham Palace can pay to stand behind the famous balcony for the first time, on which the British royal family often appear.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Austrian artists welcome Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Vienna with rendition of Vande Mataram. PM Modi is first Indian PM to visit Austria in almost 40 years. Will hold delegation-level talks with Chancellor Karl Nehammer. US President Joe Biden promises air defense system for Ukraine as he opens NATO summit in Washington. NATO Chief Stoltenberg says outcome of Ukraine conflict will shape global security for decades to come. Texas faces double whammy as heat wave adds to the woes after tropical storm Beryl forced power outages. President Joe Biden issues federal emergency disaster declaration. 7 people killed in the storm so far. Board of Control for Cricket in India appoints Gautam Gambhir as the new head coach. Gambhir to take over from Sri Lanka tour. And wonder kid Yamal scripts history as Spain edged France 2-1 to reach Euro 2024 final. Moving on, world leaders have gathered in Washington for the NATO summit as the organization celebrates its 75th anniversary. NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg urged leaders of the Transatlantic Security Alliance to maintain support for Ukraine in its war against Russia's invasion, declaring that the outcome of the conflict would shape global security for decades. The centerpiece of the NATO summit was said to be new commitments of military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine, as well as a bridge for that war-torn country to join the 32-member alliance. And the US and its allies will deliver 5 additional air defense systems to Kyiv, affirming their full support for Ukraine. The announcement came from the US President Joe Biden while awarding NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg with the US highest honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
A dozen allied partners have signed a bilateral security agreement with Ukraine, and more countries will follow. Today, I'm announcing the historic donation of air defense equipment for Ukraine. The United States, Germany, the Netherlands, Romania, and Italy will provide Ukraine with the equipment for 5 additional strategic air defense systems. And in the coming months, the United States and our partners intend to provide Ukraine with dozens of additional tactical air defense systems.
Well, NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg announced to have placed an order for Stinger anti-aircraft missiles worth almost $700 million in the name of several member states on Tuesday. Stoltenberg was addressing a gathering of defense industry leaders on the sidelines of the NATO summit in Washington. The last contract for Stinger missiles was awarded in May 2022 when the U.S. Army contracted $625 million worth of the anti-aircraft missiles to replenish stocks sent to Kyiv as it is in hot demand in Ukraine, where they have used it in their fight against Russia. The NATO order for Stingers will keep the production line running through 2029.
Last year, the NSPA, the Support and Procurement Agency, agreed contracts worth over $11 billion for ammunition and capabilities. And just today, the NSPA signed new multinational contracts for Stinger missiles worth almost $700 million.
Well, the grinding Ukraine-Russia conflict is going to dominate private conversations between the leaders of the 32 NATO member countries. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg appeared with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and announced that there will be some decisions on Ukraine during the summit. Members have a full agenda focused on military and financial aid for Ukraine and offering some pathway towards eventual NATO membership for Kyiv.
We have NATO coming together for the 75th anniversary here in Washington. Of course, celebrating those 75 years, but more important, focused on today and the following days and making sure that our alliance continues to do what it's done so successfully for 75 years, which is to ensure the defense of its members. Thanks to the Secretary General and his leadership, we have an alliance that is stronger, that is larger, and that is more fit for purpose than it's been, and ready to take on the challenges of this moment.
It will be a summit where we celebrate the most successful alliance in history, but we're also going to make important decisions for the future on deterrence and defense, on Ukraine, on partnerships in the Asia-Pacific. And of course, none of this would have been possible without the leadership of the United States, of President Biden, of you, to ensure that we have now 32 allies agreeing on all these important decisions we will take during the summit here in Washington. We will make decisions on Ukraine, and I think what we have seen over the last days demonstrates the need to step up our support for Ukraine.
Meanwhile, bilateral meeting between U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba led to the renewed support for Ukraine. Both the leaders met at the State Department during the three-day NATO summit in Washington, D.C.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is, as always, a great pleasure to have my colleague, my friend, Dmytro Kuleba here as we start the NATO summit, a summit that will further strengthen Ukraine's ties to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and its path to membership. We've done a lot of work in recent weeks and recent months on that, and I think you'll see a very strong package emerge from this summit for Ukraine. More broadly, we've been working closely together to make sure that as things move forward, Ukraine has what it needs to stand strongly on its own feet, militarily, economically, democratically. And we're on a very good pathway.
Seem to be set before a very, very important gathering of leaders. Thank you for working diligently on covering and reaching some of very important agreements on air defense and for the assistance that NATO will be providing to Ukraine. This is all essential. And I'm looking forward to continuing our partnership and friendship and cooperation.
Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged the U.S. political leaders in Washington not to wait for the outcome of America's November presidential election to move forcefully to aid his country against Russia.
It's time to step out of the shadows, to make strong decisions work, to act and not to wait for November or any other month to this end. We must be strong and uncompromising all together. And first of all, America. And first of all, the leaders of America. And the President of the United States as a leader of the free world. To be uncompromising in defending democracy. Uncompromising against Putin and his coterie. Uncompromising to every possible terror. Exactly what all Ukrainians were on the 24th of February 2022. Millions of the people of the world and millions of Americans. Exactly what President Biden and the Congress were on the 24th of February.
Well, it's the 75th anniversary of the alliance with support for Ukraine topping the agenda, but the president is fighting for political survival after a poor debate performance. Biden is struggling to convince Democrats that he's still mentally fit to run for re-election. Kate Fisher reports for more from Washington.
As Joe Biden welcomed delegates to the summit in Washington, D.C., much of the focus was actually on him. At aged 81, he's older than the NATO alliance, an alliance that he hailed, and he pledged that Ukraine can and will stop Russia. The speech was forceful and clear, and so any of his critics expecting to see a stumble like those that he had during the presidential debate would have been disappointed. But this wasn't evidence that he can handle a high-pressure situation. This was scripted, and he read off the teleprompter throughout. He is hoping that this NATO summit will be a chance for him to turn the page on a global stage to show not just the American people, but the world that he is capable of doing this job and being re-elected to do the job. But it is distracting from the work that NATO actually wants to do and what the leaders are here in Washington, D.C. to achieve. Now, domestically, Joe Biden has survived so far. A handful of Democratic lawmakers have come out publicly and said that they think he needs to stand aside and pull out of the presidential race. But on Tuesday, there were closed-door meetings of House and Senate Democrats where this topic was discussed. And when they finished, nobody left those meetings. No leadership in the House or the Senate left those meetings calling for him to go. They were all backing Joe Biden. Perhaps the biggest test this week, then, that he's going to face, having survived those meetings, is on Thursday at the NATO summit, when he will be giving an unscripted press conference, which will be the first time that reporters have a chance to ask him questions face to face since that disastrous debate. In Washington, Kate Fisher reporting for DD India.
Well, Moscow is closely monitoring the NATO summit in Washington. The Kremlin says NATO has regularly declared its aim to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia on the battlefield and is taking part directly in the Ukrainian conflict on the side of Ukraine. DD India's Dasha Chernishova has more from Moscow on this.
Moscow says it will closely monitor a NATO summit in Washington as the alliance is fighting on Kyiv's side. Russian presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Moscow would follow with the greatest attention the rhetoric at the talks and the decisions that will be taken and put on paper in Washington. All that given NATO's hostile stance towards Russia. Moscow also insists that NATO is unwilling to listen to Russia's concerns or any peace initiatives on settling the Ukrainian conflict. It also says that Kyiv's allegations that Russia deliberately hit a children's hospital in Kyiv is a provocation aimed at asking NATO for more military aid. Russia says NATO's aggression has led to the conflict in Ukraine in the first place, and the continuous supplies of weapons is also escalating the tensions. Moscow says that finding a negotiated solution is possible and Russia has never walked out from the negotiations table. Dasha Chernishova in Moscow, reporting for DD India.
Well, Donald Trump is expected to try and move on from his recent convictions and unite the party at the Republican National Convention next week. DD India's Mitch McCann reports for more.
The US Supreme Court ruled that Donald Trump has at least some immunity from prosecution for official acts taken while he was in office. And Judge Juan Merchan in the New York hush money case will have to decide whether that ruling impacts Trump's recent conviction for falsifying business records. Donald Trump was found guilty of 36 criminal counts at the end of May, becoming the first former US president to be convicted of a crime. It's possible he could be fined, sentenced to probation, or imprisoned for up to 4 years. The sentencing has now been moved back and won't take place until at least September, while the matter is being considered. That means it will no longer happen before next week's Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. It's there Trump's team will try and move on from the convictions and are likely to try and unite the party behind the presumptive candidate. And while Democrats are in chaos over the future of President Joe Biden and whether or not he should be replaced on the ticket, the Republican Party has released a schedule for a series of events taking place at the convention, including a number of receptions, lectures and presentations. It's expected that Donald Trump will officially become the Republican nominee at the end of the convention. I'm Mitch McCann in New York, reporting for DD India.
Number of heat stroke patients have increased 4 times in Japan amid a sweltering heat wave. The mercury hit 40 degrees Celsius in some cities. Over the period, 9,105 people sought emergency hospital care for suspected heat stroke across the nation, more than twice the number during the same period last year. Patient numbers are likely to increase in the weeks to come, which is expected to put a strain on the hospitals. A website has been launched as preemptive measure to provide heat stroke patient intake estimates for the hospitals. Also in the U.S., after Hurricane Beryl knocked out power to a large portion of Texas, millions now face brutally hot conditions. Some 2.2 million homes and businesses were without electricity as temperatures were reaching above 100 degrees Fahrenheit midday on Tuesday. Several gas stations in Houston, the state's largest city and the fourth largest city in the country, were closed on Tuesday because they had no electricity, with the residents forced to wait in long lines at the remaining open gas stations. Oil and gas companies are meanwhile making efforts to restart operations. U.S. President Joe Biden had on Tuesday declared Hurricane Beryl as a major disaster in Texas. And still to come in DD India News Hour. National Samsung Electronics Union in South Korea declares another strike demanding better pay. Spain's 16-year-old Lamine Yamal becomes youngest ever goal scorer at the European Championship. And in Wimbledon, Alcaraz fights back to reach Wimbledon semis. Sinner toppled by Medvedev.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and on to some business news now. The National Samsung Electronics Union in South Korea declared another indefinite strike in a statement on Wednesday. The statement comes after a 3-day strike kicked off on Monday demanding better pay. 30,000 members of the NSEU make up about 24% of the firm's South Korean workforce. The NSEU are also demanding an extra day of annual leave for unionized workers. The union flagged further action against the tech giant should demands not be met. And in the United States, inflation remained above its Federal Reserve's 2% target, but has been improving in recent months and stressed on more data for central bank interest rate cuts. In congressional testimony, Fed Chair Jerome Powell said inflation will return to the Fed's target, which is a requirement for easing monetary policy. Powell's comments may firm expectations for changes to the policy statement to be released after the Fed's July 31st meeting that at least opened the doors to a September rate cut now, given a roughly 70% probability by investors, barring a surprise jump in coming inflation readings.
Incoming data for the first quarter of this year did not support such greater confidence. The most recent inflation readings, however, have shown some modest further progress, and more good data would strengthen our confidence that inflation is moving sustainably toward 2%.
Also, Wall Street ended mixed on Tuesday after U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said that more good economic data would strengthen the case for rate cuts. AI chip maker Nvidia climbed, setting off declines in other chip stocks. Automaker Tesla gained while Microsoft lost ground. The S&P 500 gained 4.13 points to end at 5,577 points, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 0.14% to 18,429. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell to 0.13% to 39,292. And former India opener Gautam Gambhir has been appointed head coach of the country's cricket team. He succeeded former teammate Rahul Dravid in what is considered one of the most challenging jobs in the game. Dravid, who ended his tenure guiding India to the T20 World Cup last month, opted not to apply for the job again, paving the way for Gambhir's elevation to the role. Gambhir was part of the Indian side that won the T20 World Cup in 2007 and the 50 overs title 4 years later. India will aim to take lead in the series when they lock horns with Zimbabwe in the third T20 international cricket match in Harare today. Recovering from a shock 13-run defeat in the opening game, India responded with a thumping 100-run win over the host in the second match. The win helped India level the series 1-1. India likely to ring in some changes in the playing 11 as World Cup winning trio Yashasvi Jaiswal, Sanju Samson and Shivam Dube have joined the squad. The last T20 matches will be played on the 13th and the 14th of July. And India's legendary batter Sunil Gavaskar has turned 75 today. Former Indian captain and one of the greatest opening batters of all time played 125 Test and 108 one-day internationals for India. He was the first batter to score over 10,000 runs in the Test cricket with 34 centuries. In the shorter format, the master batter made 3,092 runs with an unbeaten 103 as his highest. Born in Mumbai on 10th of July 1949, Gavaskar dominated fast bowlers with his unbreachable defence and near-perfect batting technique. He played international cricket from 1971 to 1987. He was also part of World Cup winning team in 1983. Now he works as a commentator. And former India badminton player and Commonwealth Games medalist Manjusha Kanwar expressed confidence in the Indian contingent and said that India is expected to go past their Tokyo medal tally. DD India's Abhishek Mahajan spoke with her.
Former India badminton player and Commonwealth Games medalist Manjusha Kanwar is with us. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to DD India. Ma'am, first of all, last time around we had won 19 medals in Paralympics. The event says target is 30 medals. How do you see India's chances?
I think so. 30 is a very good number. I've heard the athletes, you saw them today. They look so confident. In the last World Athletic Championship at Kobe, they came back with a lot of medals. And I think the para-athletes have worked so hard for the last 4 years. 25 is their number, and I think it's going to be 30. And if it crosses 30, it's just going to be wonderful for the country.
And also, ma'am, it's heartening to see so many athletes coming forward. I mean, government also supporting them. PCI too, coming forward and taking part in Paralympics.
It's really good. I think the time is so good. I'm proud to be part of Indian Oil that, my chairman is, partnered with PCI for Road to Paralympics. So it's a very proud moment. And you can just see Prime Minister's vision of making India into a sporting nation by in 47. I think it's going to come true. The amount of support that we have now by the government, you have the Prime Minister literally wishing the athletes before they go. You have the entire nation backing them, and you have the best of facilities that have been given by the government. It was a dream for me when I played, and I see that dream being realized. It's really wonderful, and I'm sure that they're going to be medals. I'm sure, and we're on the right road. So we're going to see very, very good results in the next 10 to 15 years.
You're saying that work is being done at the grassroots level, but realistic target, you're saying 25 to 30 medals. What message do you want to give to the athletes?
Just do your best. Just enjoy the games. Do your best. We are behind you. पूरा देश आपके पीछे है, आपके साथ है. आपको अपलॉड करेंगे, आपको विश करेंगे, आपके लिए प्रार्थना करेंगे. आप अपना मेहनत लेके और भगवान में विश्वास करके आप आगे बढ़ो और ज़रूर मेडल आएगा.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for speaking to DD India. With cameraman Sanjeev, this is Abhishek Mahajan in New Delhi for DD India.
And India marks a significant milestone with just 50 days remaining until the Paris Paralympics, celebrating the spirit and determination of its para-athletes who are set to make their mark on the global stage. The event held in New Delhi on Tuesday brought together esteemed guests, dignitaries and athletes who shared their excitement and readiness for the upcoming Games starting 20th of August 2024. Key athletes Ashok and Mona Agarwal were also present, showcasing their readiness and determination ahead of the Paralympics. And Spain struck twice in 5 minutes in a pulsating first half to secure a 2-1 win over France in the Euro semi-finals. The record-breaking goal from teenager Lamine Yamal and a Dani Olmo effort propelled them into the Euro 2024 finals. The 16-year-old Yamal scored with a sublime shot in the 21st minute to become the youngest scorer in a Euro or World Cup before Olmo added another in the 25th. They will now face the winners of Wednesday's match between England and Netherlands in the final in Berlin on Sunday. And defending Wimbledon champion Carlos Alcaraz returned to the semi-finals with an enthralling comeback on Tuesday. Having taken his Grand Slam tally to 3 at the French Open last month, Alcaraz pushed on in his quest to retain a major trophy for the first time and cement his big league status by rallying past American Tommy Paul 5-7, 6-4, 6-2, 6-2. Jannik Sinner was heavily backed to succeed at the grass-court Grand Slam, but the ailing 22-year-old came crashing down to earth against 5th seed Daniil Medvedev. Sinner put up a brave fight after a timeout due to illness, but the Italian was unable to prevent a 6-7, 6-4, 7-6, 2-6, 6-3 defeat. And visitors to Buckingham Palace in London this summer will get to stand behind the famous balcony for the first time on which the British royal family often appear. Ticket holders will also be able to go inside the famous yellow drawing room, already sold out. It's expected to be accessible to the public again in 2025. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.